Without any further ado, please welcome to the stage Reverend Donnell Wyche.
Thanks, Doug. All right. The reason why Doug is doing my slides is because I'm going to need to move around and I can't stay contained to a podium. So we'll just start with my talk, which is the title of my talk, which is not that impressive. It's just imagining the future of Ann Arbor. So I want to start actually 55 years ago in 1970. In 1970, there was a group of people, almost to the day, in the city of Ann Arbor who had a vision. You know what that vision was? It was a vision of 150,000 people in the city in 1970. There was less land that the city acquired or had in its sort of borders at that time. And they had a vision that in 10 years, by 1980, the city would be at 150,000 people. They were at 100,000 at that time. So when they shared that vision, something happened. The people who heard about the vision of Ann Arbor growing in such a way, they were afraid. They were afraid of a city that would grow that fast, that quickly. So what they decided to do was they decided to organize themselves to say, how could we block a vision of the city that would grow that quickly, that fast? So tonight I'm going to be talking about fear and creative freedom. I'm going to be contrasting them because I think that's what's in front of us today. We have a lot of people who are afraid, but we don't have to live in their fear. We can live in creative freedom. So that's my whole talk. All right, I'm done. No, I am not. Here we go. So this small group of people worked consistently to make sure that Ann Arbor stayed small. And I wanted to put this slide up so that we could look at it together. Look at 1970. Where are we? We're at 100,000 people. You see that huge growth curve from 1940 to 1970. One of the other speakers talked about, Gaurav talked about the post-economic boom and the housing boom. Post-World War II, you had the GI Bill. It excluded Black people, but that's a whole conversation for another day. But here are all these homes that are getting built and this proliferation of home ownership. And it is happening in the city. Every square inch of the city is built out to low density. Every square inch of it. Where I live on the western side, near Pioneer in Dickin, you can just go down any street in Dickin neighborhood. They're all the same kind of housing, all the way to the edge of the border, all right? And then in 1970, something happens because the growth curve starts to flatten. And as we move towards today, we are actually statistically flat or in decline. So freedom has two possible outcomes, fear or creativity. In 1970, our city chose fear. Their view of the city was a view of scarcity. There's not enough space. There's not enough room. There's not enough for everyone. So they held tightly to what they were holding on to. But today, friends, I stand before you because we can change. We can change. We can change. We can choose creativity over fear. We can choose trust over anxiety, and we can choose abundance over scarcity. Now, the key that I want to communicate to you is these are all states of mind. The creative state of mind, that we look at a problem and we don't assume that the problem cannot be fixed. Now, I had to go through counseling because some things in my life went sideways, and I didn't want them to go that way. So you go to a counselor and you tell the counselor about it, and you hope that the counselor gives you some drugs to make your life go better. No, I'm sorry. You hope that the counselor helps you with the challenges that you are processing. So I go in and I'm meeting with my counselor, and he says, Donnell. And I go, yes, counselor? He's like, has anyone told you that you're an optimist? And I was like, an optimist? Like, those are those Pollyanna people who like shoot rainbows and, just sort of see rose-colored lenses with everything. I was like, no, I don't think people would describe me that way. He said, In fact, Donnell, you're not an optimist. You're an eternal optimist. And I was like, ooh, that sounds better, but I still don't think it's me. Tell me more. And I was like, what does it mean to be an eternal optimist? He said, and listen, you believe that every problem has a solution. And I was like, who doesn't believe that every problem has a solution? And he's like, lots of people. You are different in that way. This is a frame of mind. We can choose creativity over fear. We can choose trust over anxiety. We can choose abundance over scarcity. Okay, let me just say this, because this is important. We do not have to live with the fears of those who are not with us anymore. Let me just say it again. We do not have to live with the fears of those who are no longer with us. Do you know the tallest building in the city of Ann Arbor is Tower Plaza? Do you know that that building is 260 feet thereabouts high? Do any of you in this room know why there is no higher building in the city of Ann Arbor? Because Sarah Ellen does, Dr. Sarah Ellen does. Because somebody was afraid of a tall building at or about 1968, 1969. I'm on the planning commission, I've been asking staff, who wrote the rule that said we can't build higher than that? Because if you can show me the rule, I want to get rid of it. Why? Because we don't have to live with the fears of those who are no longer with us. Are you with me? Yes. Okay. So this mindset of fear shows up everywhere in our city. Did you know in 1924, when zoning came into effect in the city of Ann Arbor, we had 4 zones, we had a 7-page zoning document, and every one of you in this room could read it and understand it. You would know what you could build, what you couldn't build, you could know where you could place it, how, you would know how tall, where, and then you see the city for 100 years operate under that plan. So anything that you like about the walking tour, Garth, you're doing the walking tour tomorrow, anything that you like about the walking tour is because of those 100 years. That's why. Because we were able to figure it out. Do you know how, it's on the slide, so you do know, but do you know how big the UDC, the Unified Development Code for the city of Ann Arbor is? It's 288 pages. Now, thank you for yelling that out, because when I joined the Planning Commission, guess how many pages it was? 324. Guess what I'm doing? I can't take all of the credit. There are people who have been doing things ahead of me that I have been joining the stream of. But I'm going to take credit tonight. It's gone from 324 to 288. And I'm trying to get it down to about 100 pages. I'm trying to live in reality, but I think if we can get it down even further, it'll be better. All right, so when you have a document that is 288 pages long, all planning is a tool for saying no. It is not a permitting document. Do you know how I know this? Next slide. This is how I know this. This is a single-family home that is in our neighborhood, or excuse me, in our community. It is listed for $2.5 million. It's down from $2.7 million because apparently we don't have as many millionaires as we thought we did in the city. And it's still on the market. 5 bedrooms, 7 baths, 500,000 square feet. No, I'm embellishing. Stay with me. This structure is not supervised by the Unified Development Code. Single-family detached homes in the city of Ann Arbor do not have site plan review. They do not come under the purview of the Unified Development Code. Why? Because that's what we want to build. Let's see the next slide. This is what we really want to build. Multi-unit families, apartments, different kinds of housing types that fit very naturally into our neighborhoods as neighbors so that we might have more neighbors. But each one of these would require a site plan. And when you go through site plan review, it comes to the planning table. If you need to change the zoning, it then goes to the council table. Then there might even be a development agreement that you have with the city of Ann Arbor, which is then enforced. I just learned, this is for my lightning talk tomorrow, and I'm getting ahead of myself, and I'm sorry, but I just learned that in 2020, our city council passed a development agreement that puts a gate on a public road to block the people who are going to live in multifamily units from the people who live in single-family detached units. I wish I was lying to you. Next slide. We don't have to live with the fear of others. Fear whispers to us. It gets in, it's insidious actually, that welcoming others means we lose something. I'm going to tell something that is not my story to tell, but the person can't stop me. I live with these little people, and these little people rule my life. I'm their parents. They live with me. I have to board them. They do not share my views, okay? I have been on a housing campaign for years, like since 2014, when the land across the street from my church, which belonged to the city, or excuse me, the county, it's 13 acres up against County Farm Park, which is another like 200-acre park in the middle of our city, which is fantastic. When that land, which was a detention center, became available, the county decided it wanted to make it available for affordable housing. And that's how I got my start in housing advocacy. I started to advocate for that housing. And I'm happy to tell you that 10 years later, that housing is now built. And there are families that have moved in across the street from our church. And last night, I actually got an award from Avalon because of the advocacy that I've been doing for this. So, like, I am committed to this work. And it pains me that the little people who live in my home don't share my vision, because this fear whispers to them that they're going to lose something if more people get the benefits that we do. We live on Scioto Church across from Pioneer Prairie, which is owned by the Ann Arbor Public Schools. It's a 177-acre property that has a 40-acre woodland that we can cross-country ski in, we can play disc golf in, we can run in, we can play in. And you know what I want? I want everybody in this city to be able to live in a place like that. And when I talk to my kids about it, they're just like, yeah, but then there's gonna be more people, and you're gonna change our suburban, and you're gonna make it into this urban thing. You should move to New York. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. We're just trying to make more space. So fear whispers that we're losing something. But I want to argue with the time that I have left, and I haven't been paying attention to time, so I have infinite time, that what if that story is a lie? So now let's talk about a creative alternative. What if true freedom comes from interdependence? Have you ever been with a little person who's trying to solve a problem? They do not believe in gravity, right? Like they want something, it's higher than they can reach it. They just imagine, I can climb, I can just get to it, right? And you're standing there watching them, and you're concerned that you and the forces of nature that you don't believe exist will come rushing up to meet you so that you really realize this works. And even when that happens, guess what? They don't care. I talk about this all the time because I think in order for us to achieve the vision that Adam laid out for us, which was, let's not just talk about what's wrong, let's paint a positive picture of what our future should look like, it requires us to tap into something that we have given up as adults. That childlike wonder and belief that anything is possible. You know how I know? My kids ask me for money endlessly. They do not care that I have to work. They do not care I have to pay a mortgage. They do not care we're saving for their college. They do not care. All they care about is what they want at the moment they want it, and therefore they do what? They ask for it. So here's my invitation to all of you. What do you want for the city of Ann Arbor? Let's not worry about who we have to replace on city council or in other forms of government to achieve it. Let's figure out what we want. And like the people in 1970, let's begin to work collectively together to achieve it. Are you with me? Some of you are. No boundaries on your imagination, creative problem solving, and trust in possibility. Trust in possibility. I have sat at the planning table since 2021. And I have consistently spoken to the planning manager about unzoning. That's a word I want you all to learn. Unzoning. That's what we have to do in the city of Ann Arbor. We have to unzone things. And as we, that is good. That's the only way we're going to move this forward. We have to undo the things that people have done. And it feels overwhelming to do it. I sit at the table and I just go, why do we have this? Do we still need it? Let's get rid of it. Like, that's it. That's your lexicon. Why do we have this? Generally, it's because of somebody else's fears. They're no longer with us. God rest their soul. Can we change it? Yes, we can. Absolutely, we can. I don't care what anybody tells you when they say, this is going to be hard, this is going to be difficult. That's what life is about. It is hard. It is difficult. I live with little people all the time. They call me names, right? Like, this is hard. But we don't allow that to stop us from moving forward. Are you with me? Yeah. Okay, now you're with me. All right, so what do we need? We need an inclusive city where everyone belongs. We need dense, vibrant city where everything is walkable. And we need a prosperous city where abundance is shared. Here's the key about density that a lot of people don't talk about. During COVID, I learned to bake. I baked a lot of things, okay? I was making homemade pizzas. My kids still talk about that. They're like, Dad, your pizzas are great. I was like, Domino's is better. So, it's like that. I made every bread. I have a whole bread board. I have bread books. I have Dutch ovens. I just made and made and made. I made so much stuff that my little family couldn't eat it. So what did I do? I gave it to my two neighbors to the east and the west who are widows. They couldn't eat everything. So then what did I do? I called my friends that lived in Dicton, and I drove over and dropped off food for them. Guess what could happen if all of you in the room lived near me? When I had leftovers, I could just send out a group text and say, who wants it? And you could just come. And guess what's going to happen? We are going to be able to make a social bond. We're going to be able to connect. We're going to be able to care for each other. We're going to be able to look each other in the face and know whether we're okay or we're not. And we're going to be able to thrive. We're going to be able to survive. And we're going to be able to see a future together that is better than the one we have. That's the real key of density. Next slide. So, we can trust each other because we live closer together. We can share things. Like, all of us don't need cars. Some of us only need a car once a week. But if there was like a shared thing and we were able to manage that well so that, if you scratched it, you got it fixed, right? Neighbors and all that kind of stuff. Okay, great. So, we could share those things. Do you know, I'm going to tell you this story. This is a crazy story. I've been living here where I live for almost 20 years. I have a neighbor. He has a snowblower. You know what my neighbor does? He's never going to see this. You know what my neighbor does? He snow blows his house and the widow's to the west of me, skips mine, and then snow blows the widow that is to the east of me. And I'm like, if you would just give me the snowblower, I would do it all. Okay. Apparently, I just needed to confess that to someone, and you are the ones. Because we're all together, Our neighborhoods are walkable, which allows our kids to go free. I grew up in the inner city of DC. I was a latchkey kid. So in kindergarten, I had a key to my house. My mom had to take several buses to get to work. She worked for the Department of Interior. She knew everything about every mine in the United States. You could ask her. She could tell you where it was, what it did, what it had in it. But she had to leave early because when we grew up in DC, the Metro, which is the regional transit, didn't come across the Anacostia River. Anacostia is the neighborhood that I grew up in. It's also the neighborhood where Frederick Douglass lived. It was a white neighborhood until he moved in, and then he integrated it, and then all the white people began to move out. The city was separated. The blacks in the city of DC lived in what is called Ward 7 and 8. And Marion Barry, who was the mayor at the time, you might know about him because of his predilections, but he was a good mayor. He was a good mayor. He did a job program for youths. He made sure that everybody had food, and he built housing. He was a good mayor. He just had his own personal failures, as we all do. My mom had to take 3 buses to get to work, so she couldn't see me off to school. But the good news was we lived a half a block from the school, so I could just walk out of my apartment to school, and then I could walk home from school. And what I want for my kids is what I had for myself, which was the freedom to move freely around the city. That cannot happen today. I have a vision of my kids being able to get on their bikes and get into a protected bike lane and be able to get to the downtown library. I have a vision of our city where my kids can get on their bikes, get into a protected bike lane, and get to Travelwood Library. I have a vision of my kids being able to get on their bikes, get into a protected bike lane, and get to the Westgate branch, so that they don't have to have a car if they don't want, but more than that, that they might have what Garth was talking about in his talk, which was that freedom of movement. Trust unlocks freedom that isolation never could. So what's all this Ann Arbor for all stuff is about? Well, it's an invitation to trust in abundance, to trust that there's enough, to trust that we can thrive together, and to trust that we can build together. Next slide. So what does that look like? Housing for all. We need to build more housing. We absolutely need to build more housing. There is currently the Washtenaw County, the Song Foundation actually sponsored it, thank you, Lynn, and your foundation, talking about housing data, right? We know that there's a housing crisis in the city of Ann Arbor. We know that because people cannot afford to buy the housing that they want. And why is that? Because we haven't built the kind of housing that we need to. And why is that? Because of our rules. It's really hard to build housing here. It's very expensive to build housing here, and that impacts all of us. But we need every kind of housing type in every neighborhood, right? So I'm going to say there are no city council people here, so that's fine. These city council folks, they did something that I was just absolutely shocked about, and I'm going to talk about tomorrow in my lightning talk. They created what I'm going to be calling now an economic red line. That's what they did. It's not the racial red line that we know about, where banks went around maps and drew red lines and said, we're not going to lend money there. What this council did is what they said is only a certain kind of housing type is going to be permitted here. It is a red line by another name. And we should call it out for what it is so that we can confront and talk about it. And I want you to know that what I'm telling you, I have already told them. I have said it to them. I have said it to them on the phone. I have said it to them in emails. And let me tell you, I read a lot of emails. Okay? That's the one thing I learned from white culture. You got to write letters. Just got to write letters, man. You white people love a well-written letter. All right, here we go. Transportation for all. I'm a black person, in case you didn't know, and I talk about race because I live in race. And if you're uncomfortable talking about race, we can talk about that. All right. Transportation. I already talked about this with all my kids. Next. Community for all. It would be great if we could all just be together. It would be a little bit easier. We could share our resources. We have a little more fun together. I need people to play spades with me. Anybody in here know how to play spades? Anybody? All right, good. Let's get together. Let's play some spades. And then sustainability for all. Of course, density creates sustainability, right? Shared resources. We're all together. We're not consuming as much. Man, we could even build like microgrids, right? That's what the city is doing with its SEU, right? They're going to try to put solar on different houses and then have a microgrid and then allow people to share that. Well, what if that looked like something we would just do in our neighborhoods so that the widows on either side of me, when they lose power, they don't have to be cold in their homes? Next slide. So Ann Arbor for All asks us to trust in abundance because this is what abundance would look like. So now let me talk about creativity. So what does creativity require? Courage to step into the unknown, imagination to dream like kids. I need your imaginations. You in this room have the vision for what the city is supposed to look like. And we need you to share that vision with us so that we can begin to build that. I do not believe I am arrogant enough to know what the future of the city of Ann Arbor looks like. It is because of my partnership and connection with you that we will figure this out together. Are you with me? Yes. We have to trust each other. What is happening right now in the city is people are sowing distrust. They are using just this baseline of information, trying to hope that no one looks below it, and they're sowing distrust. They're trying to pit neighbor against neighbor, but that is the old way. We're going to bring anybody who wants to come along with us wherever it is we're going. We're going to open the door. We're going to share our cookies. We're going to share our bread. We're going to share our stuff because we know that we are what? Better together. Commitment. So here's the real thing. We need you to start showing up to meetings. I'm on planning commission. I've been sitting in these meetings. Oh, Lord. And they're 6 hour long. And I'm hearing a lot of the same stories. We need to hear different stories. We need to hear from different voices. We really need to be hearing from you students. You students that are in this room, I just want to speak to you right now for just a moment, okay? I'm assuming you're a student. All right, great. So I'm going to focus on you, but it's everybody in the room, all right? You actually have all of the electoral power in the city of Ann Arbor. You are the majority here. If you showed up and vote, we could do whatever we wanted to do. All right. So I'm going to take you to church just for a second. It's not on the slide because, I know it's not a religious room. But in my faith tradition, what we call this is prophetic imagination. The prophet looks ahead and sees what isn't yet being revealed and then uses the imagination to bring it to bear in reality. And so we call it prophetic imagination. And it has been a guiding force in my life because the city of Ann Arbor wanted to have an unarmed police program. And so some organizers and I got together and we designed the program. We designed it before the city did. And then we held workshops talking about unarmed police public safety. We then brought in experts. We then created papers. We then critiqued the consultants that the city hired. And you know what started to happen? People began to refer to the unarmed plan that the mayor, in his infinite wisdom, passed a resolution to get started as the Crow's plan. How did that happen? Well, we took the narrative lead. And that's what we need to do now. We need to take back the narrative lead about housing, about abundance, about inclusion, about welcome, and we need to be the ones drumming that drum over and over and over and over again. Yeah, thanks. So this was just something I came up with, housing along every street. We have a lot of trees. Do you know how many trees we have in the city of Ann Arbor? I'm going to tell you. We have 1.5 million trees, all right? And we have a fund to plant new trees. And anytime a developer who has a site plan cuts down a mature tree, they have to replace it with 5 trees. Do you know, this is not on my slides, do you know that the city of Ann Arbor charged the housing committee commission because they failed a, what did they call it? Landmark, thank you. Dr. Strongman knows everything. You all should really be listening to her. They cut down, they caused a landmark tree to die on their property that's on State Street. And they had to come before a planning commission to tell us that they did this. This was the craziest meeting that I was in. They had to come and explain what they did. Then we charged them $50,000 for losing that tree, and then they had to plant new trees. So when people come and tell me at the table that this city does not care about trees, I'm like, you know who they don't care about? Is me. They care about the trees, not me. And that's real. In 1970, they got together and said, we don't want black people to live in the city of Ann Arbor, so let's change our zoning laws so that a single family home had to be on an acre lot. That true story, look it up. Ann Arbor District Library will help you with that one. All right, last piece. I wish I had what I usually do when I speak to new audiences. I actually do this a lot because it's a really good tool. I bring coloring pencils and coloring pages. And I ask you to tap into your inner child, the time where you would get lost just coloring. And I don't have that for you tonight, but I do want you to do what I'm asking for, which is that you would be like children again, that you would begin to dream about our city, who you want to see in it, who's missing from it, who is being excluded actively now from it. There are people who have been priced out and they had to move on. What would it look like for them to come back? And you can begin to dream. And as you dream, I just ask that you would share your dreams with me. Twice a month on Tuesday night, in chamber council, in chambers, you can come and share your dream for 3 minutes, uninterrupted. And we all have to listen.